Live. All right. Hello, everyone. Today, this is the third episode of the Buffet Show. Very fortunate enough to have with me award-winning journalist Kenji Taguma, San Francisco native, Sacramento native.
Right.
Sacramento native. Founding president of the Nichi Bei Foundation, as well as board chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're good. All right, and then prior to that, he was also the English section editor of the Nichi Bei Times, Northern California's oldest Japanese American newspaper at the time, from September of 1995 to September of 2009. Eventually, it manifested into something else, which we'll be talking about shortly. 1998 of October, Kenji received the Distinguished Alumni Honors Award from Cal State University of Sacramento. And so one of the big things too, May of 2013, he was awarded a Consul General Award from Consul General of Japan in San Francisco, Hiroshi Inomata, for his distinguished achievements in contributing to mutual understanding and friendship between Japan and California. Welcome to the Buffet Show, Kenji. It's kind of nice to have the somebody who I work for as my boss on the hot seat. So this is good. Part of what I want to get to, and today we're also here at the Nichi Bei Day of Giving, which is basically a pledge drive. And so we're live here, San Francisco, Japantown, trying to get people to donate. And we'll be talking about how people can donate in many different ways. But I want to say thank you, Kenji, for joining me. I want to kind of just talk a little bit more about the journalism aspect. Part of what you've done was the Nichi Bei Times, and to kind of just go on that journey and how you wanted to get into journalism and how you eventually ended up at Nichi Bei Times.
Okay. So, in high school, I was on the journalism staff. I was a yearbook editor my senior year. And at Sacramento College, I was a sports editor for a year. And during that year, we were both the best community college newspaper in Northern California and also the state. Although I was doing sports with a passion then, and I was doing some editorial writing as well on the Japanese American incarceration. When I went to Cal State Sacramento, I had changed my major to international business because I thought my Japanese was good enough to make a difference, and I wanted to make homeless shelters and revive Sacramento, Japantown. Then I figured that I couldn't pass business calculus, and so I was kind of lost. And then one day I went into an Asian American Studies class. I think I was there by mistake because I might have thought it was an Asian Studies class, but I met a sensei named by the name of Wayne Maeda. He became my mentor on the Japanese American experience in Sacramento at the time, and through that class, I changed my major to ethnic studies, became a student activist, did organizing about 24 programs in just a year and a half, as well as an Asian American newspaper. And trying to get the Asian American communities collectively raise our consciousness about issues that are facing us. And at the time, there was a rash of racially motivated firebombings. So I think it was all the more important to galvanize the community for a response to that.
Now, where were these firebombings happening?
Sacramento. There was the Sacramento office of NAACP, Sacramento JACL, Jewish Temple, the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, and the home of Councilman Jimmy, Chinese American, were firebombed in 1993. So I was part of that, Sacramento firebombing trial coalition to raise awareness of that issue, and wrote about it extensively in my Asian American Journal, college newspaper.
Now, you talk a little bit about Wayne Maeda. Mm-hmm. Now, how influential was he to you in terms of developing you as as a journalist, as somebody who was Japanese American at that time, what was the influence from Wayne and also his wife as well, correct? I mean,
definitely. I mean, I had no Sansei role models, basically, but here I saw a Sansei who was not only interested in Japanese American history, but was responsible for doing this very large exhibit on the experience. And so one day, and I was a very shy, usually shy kid at the time. One day after class, I said, my father was one of these resistors who protested the incarceration at the camp. And like Wayne would explain it, his eyes lit up because he knew there were some resistors around, but he didn't know that. So part of my class semester-long project was to interview my father, put together research, which eventually became a large section of the Sacramento History Museum exhibit that he was doing on the resistors. This was groundbreaking because they were still being ostracized at the time. So he gave them a voice. That my father's story gave me a voice, and from there I got more into activism. So I think it's important for Wayne to come along at that time because I could have dropped out of college because I couldn't pass business calculus.
Right.
I could have been a failed international business student.
I mean, we all can't do math, right?
Right.
But so I know in terms of your own history and then meeting Wayne and growing up too, in terms of your father being a resistor, and when we talk about resistor, we're talking about somebody World War II conscientious objector, correct?
Well, he resisted the draft.
So
different,
basically a little different, but also when you think about that, your father was kind of even a precursor to Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, right? I mean, that's.
I guess, yeah. I mean, the resistors now, although they were really ostracized back then, now they're civil rights heroes. So they're resisting, they're protesting for civil rights before civil rights was even a movement.
And obviously this is due to because the issue of Japanese Americans of Japanese ancestry being rounded up, when World War II happened. A lot of them from the West Coast, and we're looking at 120,000 Japanese Americans. And so that. Now, did you grow up knowing that history as you were growing up, or was that something that wasn't shared with you?
I knew it. I mean, my dad would complain that no one knows about us guys, no one knows about us resistors, and I was an unfilial kid. I wasn't, I was a fifth of 5 children. Everybody excelled ahead of me. I was the one taken out of class and say, my English teacher would say, "Hey, I know you could do better. I had all your siblings," and then I just laugh at it. My English teacher. Not that I can accomplish anything. I mean, I was a yearbook editor, but I was just not as motivated, I think. And then when I had to write a term paper in high school to graduate, I started to look at the Japanese American experience. And it was actually, ironically, the story of the 442nd Regimental Combat Team and their military exploits that really inspired me to learn more about Japanese American history. It wasn't until later in college when I wrote an editorial for our Sacramento City College Express that I started to look into my dad's history of resistance. And it wasn't until I transferred to Kelsey, Sacramento that I really began to look into it and start to actually help bring that story out on the local, national, and even international level.
Now, how did the Nichi Bei Times evolve in terms of, or how did you reach out to them? Was it something that you were like, I'm about to graduate, I need a job, so how did your relationship with the Nichi Bei Times happen?
So I was working for the Sacramento Human Rights Fair Housing Commission for about 10 months right after I graduated, and there was 3 reasons I came here. One, I had a girlfriend here at the time in San Francisco. These are no particular order. I wanted to get into the ethnic studies program at San Francisco State University, and of course there was an English editor job at the Nichi Bei Times opened up. We had subscribed to the Nichi Bei Times for 50 years, even though we live in the countryside of West Sacramento. So I thought all three kind of happened for a reason. I believe in a lot of destiny. This was meant to happen. Went to the Nichi Bei Times. I think I went 2 or 3 times because I was trying to clarify that really that's all you're gonna pay me. So yeah. So it was I was the youngest person there. That wasn't an intern, and everybody there at the time was like 80 years old, or in their 50s, a lot older. And coming up, we didn't have a computer. I didn't have a computer, so I was basically typing stories, handing it to a typist who would type it into this machine that puts up strips, and that's where you got the cut and paste. So this is right when the internet was invented by Al Gore. About 1995. But then it took a while to get computers and everything.
Yeah, I mean, so you're in Nichi Bei Times. You're kind of trying to learn the system and whatnot. What did you feel like your role was at the Nichi Bei Times once you got your feet wet and started to put stories together? One of the big things is keeping the community together, right? And that's what a lot of ethnic media was about, right? Yeah. And so, what in terms of challenges, in terms of developing your own style for what the paper was eventually going to be, what kind of challenges did you encounter?
Challenges were lack of resources, computers, staff. We had a larger Japanese section, as you know, and so more resources were put into that. Just trying to gain, I guess, being so young and trying to gain a little bit of respect. And trying to change something that has been set in its ways for so long, to try to transform that and trying to reach out to younger generations. I mean, we eventually did that with adding, more pages of English. And then eventually in 2006, we did an all-English weekly that we put together. So we did make those changes. I think that could have been done 5-10 years prior, and would have put us into a better position. But we always had that dynamic of, Japanese edition, English edition, all the focus on the Japanese edition. But in the end, it was the English edition that was able to continue. And I think the Japanese edition had challenges with free papers and lack of immigration for large one. So I think we always said that if there was interest and finances, we would add extra pages in Japanese, but that never really materialized.
Now, in terms of trying to garner, stories, because this was daily, right? I mean, stories we're cutting and pasting every day. Were there particular stories that you wanted to share to have people take, Japanese Americans aware of what was going on? Were there particular stories that you felt compelled to write? A little bit about that.
Yeah, I think there are number ones. Stories relating to the fight to save historic Japantown properties, like the YWCA. I mean, I wrote an editorial on that, the fight to save the YWCA, and how that building was built by Issei women to provide programs for their Nisei kids, and today, is being used by Sansei and parents for the Yonsei kids, or Shin Issei families for their Shinisei kids. So I think it's one building that kind of encompasses the whole trajectory of the Japanese American experience. Everybody, how it was used. So I think that was important to try to raise awareness over the importance of that. And the Abiko family was involved in helping to raise money for that building. So the Abe family started the Nichi Bei Shimbun and then the Nichi Bei Times after the war. There was a number of Japantown properties for sale in 2006, which we covered very, very extensively. And people have said that we helped to save the Kokoro building because Kokoro assisted living was about to be sold to Unlock in Chinatown. But we raised awareness of it, and people got upset and rallied to try to save it and preserve that building. There was one instance when I got wind of. There was a time of remembrance program in Sacramento, and then the dean of the library at Cal State Sacramento, which oversees the Japanese American archival collection, she used the word Japantown and mentioning, waxing nostalgic, and she was saying, "Oh yeah, I remember going to Japantown or whatever." And then I heard about it, and then started to write about it, and we were the only publication to cover that, and interviewed the president of the school and all the people who were upset about the use of the term. And she was proven to be unfriendly to the Japanese American archival collection, which was the prized community collection that was in the archives. And so even the local ABC affiliate there in Sacramento used our story as, this is the only publication that wrote about it. And then she was fired, or she was forced to resign. So that is, I think, in terms of our role as a guardian of community, so that our stories about forsaken and our experience is not taken for granted, I think is important. But the number one story that I'm proud to be associated with was the fight for redress for Japanese American railroad and mine workers. And this is something that we covered extensively. Nichi Wegland, Nichi Wegland, the author of Years of Infamy, orchestrated this movie to get victims of the railroad and mine workers' families who they thought were fired during World War II from the government to start writing to all the day papers and to bring their stories. So we gave them space. Not only did we give them space, but we did the most extensive reporting on that issue. And reported on the smoking gun, the research that was being done by a graduate student in Arizona, and even wrote an editorial on it. And then a couple of months after that ran in our New Year's edition, they were granted redress. So the feedback that we got from the federal community, the railroad and mine workers, this is 10 years after the Civil Liberties Act of 1988. And so it flew under the radar of every mainstream paper. No one reported on it until after they won the redress. But even for Japanese American activists, really, heard about it. So we brought that story to life, and I'm proud that we were able to do that, and I'm proud that they were able to get redress. And that's what I got a community award from New Health and Media at the time. But I think the publication has always been, I call it the glue that holds the community together, historically, socially, emotionally, spiritually through the churches. And I think it's important that we serve as that glue that keeps community connected at a time when we have so much dispersal and so much apprehension over what that means.
And I know that you've gotten to the point where things have to change again, and we're starting to see that. So the print edition had to go away. What was the drive for you to continue something and begin to establish the Nichi Bei Foundation to again hold that the glue that holds the community together? What was your drive to continue that effort? You could have gone to anywhere else, right? I mean,
get more money.
No, exactly, right? And you stayed in the community. You're still driving, the ship. But when Nichi Bei Times folded, how was that transition like in terms of what you had to go through to then establish the Nichi Bei Foundation?
It was very tough because this was done being parallel. I mean, I knew that the Times was going to close. Staff didn't. I had to hold that for a while. But in I was creating a board and for the Nichi Bei Foundation, and starting to create a parallel nonprofit from June of 2009. We announced started in July 27th, I believe. But a month later, we announced it to staff, and so I had to, basically start this guerrilla style. And the early editions were put together at the National Japanese American Historical Society in the back of their storage area using jump drives, and nothing was networked. So it was hard, but it's a hard thing not keeping this kind of secret and not telling my staff. But when I found out that this is the day that it's been announced that we're closing to the staff, I frantically sent out an email to a couple of my editors saying, okay, this is what's going down. There's going to be a meeting this afternoon. We're going to close. That Nichi Bei Times is going to close. But I've been working on this nonprofit, and we don't know what it's going to become. There's still a lot of things to do, but if it does, I want my two top editors to be involved. And fortunately, they were able to jump the ship. I don't know if that's a good.
Jump into the boat.
Take a leap of faith. Not good with sayings. And then we had some, board members of community leaders, media professionals, former journalists. At the time, it was lucky for us that there were journalists were being laid off, right? So we had former mainstream journalists really driving it on a volunteer basis at first. And my associate editor, Alan McDonald, said, I'm gonna volunteer for 6 months because I know he knew that other people had to get paid. So because I had one of the larger severances, because it was based on how many years I was at Nichi Bei Times, I followed his lead and volunteered as well for 6 months. Without that, it couldn't happen. We only had like 3 weeks before the announcement and the end of the Nichi Bei Times to kind of raise money. So we were frantically putting out all these ads saying, subscribe. And they weren't the Nichi Bei Times wasn't gonna transfer any subscriptions at all. So we had to get everybody one by one, and then we had to raise money too. So we're frantically putting in these ads saying, donate and whatnot. We only had two $5,000 donations at first, and then smaller ones, of course. But it really was a community-inspired movement. And if it wasn't for that, people have told me that, oh, you guys help save community. And I don't know if we would go that far, but it's really heartwarming to see that need. And we were getting all kinds of handwritten notes at first, say thank you for doing what you're doing and all that. So it was really inspired. And every single time that we run into financial issues because of the downturn of advertising that has hit us in recent years, we asked this community for help. They've responded. It goes to show how resilient we have been. We came out of camp with nothing and we built our communities all over. But it's really inspiring as to the support we get. And today is a good indication of that, the amount that people are contributing to get us back on the right footing.
And so today we're here and we are at the Nichi Bei Day of Giving here in Japantown, San Francisco. We're into this room here where people are coming through, they're hanging out. Flip it around, but
Union Bank Community Room in the Japan Center East Mall.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And
right across from Daiso.
Yeah, so you can get, under $1, under $1.50, you get a whole bunch of stuff. We'll come over here.
We got prizes.
So you got prizes, but the main thing is the process of this. Why exactly are you doing this?
Why? Well, because of the downturn in advertising, we have some debts that need to be paid. We also wanted to start working and creating a reserve fund that we never had because we didn't have any. We only have the equivalent of 4 staff, full-time staff. So we don't have a lot of time or room to do a lot of things that we need to in terms of building this foundation, this operation. But just getting by. So we hope to build a reserve fund so we can address unexpected expenses in the future. But to me, what it really means is to support our staff. We've got 8 years without getting any raises. I think we deserve, I want to support our staff and make sure they're taken care of, making sure things like the rise in healthcare are taken care of, but especially to get increases for everybody.
Now, is there a website that they could go to?
Yes.
You wanted to share that?
You can go to nichibei.org, nichibei.org, and hit the Nichi Bei Day of Giving button, or you can go nichibei.org /give to the number Nichi Bei, and you can make contributions there. We have various board members and staff that have fundraising pages. Fortunately, I already met my goal of 5,000. I got 65 so far, but there are the people who want to, reach their goals, and we're trying to get raise at least 50,000 in this endeavor. Technically, we need a lot more, but we thought we, want to make a goal that was attainable. It's great because I think it's our goal of keeping the community connected, informed, and empowered is important, and we've evolved since then, of course, by not only doing the maintaining print and digital edition and a website, but with big issues like the Japanese culture community, Japanese culture and Cherry Blossom Festival's Guide and Obon and Summer Festival's Guide. But we also have produced some very meaningful programs. So like Films of Remembrance, which is a premier showcase of films related to the Japanese American incarceration experience. We had 10 films and 4 or 5 shows sell out this year with more than 700 people attending. Nikkei Angel Island Pilgrimage is something I'm particularly proud of. In the first one in 2014, we brought more than 650 people in the largest pilgrimage from our community to Angel Island. And over the first 3 years, we brought more than 1,300 people to Angel Island because we wanted to get the community reconnected to our lost legacy there. The Japanese experience gets kind of overlooked under the larger narrative of the Chinese experience. Not comparing any experience, but we kind of forgotten our ties there. Between 1910 and 1940, there were 85,000 people of Japanese descent that came to San Francisco, came to America, and most of them had time on Angel Island. And other research we found, there were people from Hawaii that came. There were Japanese POWs there as well. And we wanted to not only learn about that immigration experience, honor our East Asian ancestors, but also learn about family history. So we have, through the help of the California Genealogical Society, we have family history workstations where people can look up their family history. And so that has been very meaningful. And in the first year, we honored the people who rediscovered the Angel Island barracks when they were about to be closed and torn down. A gentleman by the name of Alexander Weiss, a park ranger at the time, came across the carvings on the wall and told his professor at San Francisco State, George Adaki, about the carvings. And so George and James Hirabayashi, who was the dean of ethnic studies, College of Ethnic Studies at San Francisco State, they went to the island and started to catalog it along with photographer Matt Takahashi. So we were able to honor Matt Takahashi, George Araki, and Alexander Weiss, the person who discovered the carving. And 2 weeks later, Alexander Weiss passed away. So I think it's important for us to recognize him as a community about his role and really saving the Angel Island Immigration Station from destruction.
In terms of all the programming that you do, how are you able to kind of have time for yourself? How is it? Are you able to recharge? Because I remember working for you, and I remember working long hours, day in, day out. I remember my breakfast was Cliff Bar and Red Bull, and we were cutting and pasting. And so, how are you able to now you know, you're years deep into this now, and you've kind of evolved. How are you able to take some time for yourself? Because this ain't easy. You know, it's not something that it's like a lay person will be able to do. And I want to know, because I think, you know, even, you know, as journalists, you know, it's a thankless job. You know, and we're talking about compensation, monetarily, to survive, especially in the Bay Area.
Right.
And so, how are you able to be able to decompress, be able to kind of, you know, go to sleep at night and then wake up in the morning and do what you do?
Yeah. You know, I've always required little sleep. I mean, that's from college.
That's true.
I can't do the 1 or 2 hours anymore. My body constantly reminds me that I can't do it. I tend to work overnight because there's no distractions, no phone calls, no other people to do it. So, you know, I'm often still there with my staff. But it's really, we have dedicated staff who's very efficient, because I'm not as efficient, but it's short time. Very dedicated, hardworking staff who also work long. I mean, sometimes we get them to these editions at 7 o'clock in the morning, and we're working overnight. So that's not hard. That's not easy as well. But in the program, we have our board steps in and help as well on volunteers. And we have volunteers like today who help out as well. So it has been tough, but you know, it's something that is worth the struggle, because I worry about not having a source to keep us connected and really documenting our history. Even at the end of the Nichi Bei Times, there were researchers from Japan that were looking at old editions from the 20s and 30s. And that's where our history is, right? When we started to do Angel pilgrimage, it was ironic and amazing that some of the speakers, they were interpreting, or they translated the poems that were in the pre-war Nichi Bei Shimbun. And then we had like Judy Young, who's done research on Angel Island. She was referencing the articles in the Nichi Bei Shimbun. So without that source of documentation, there's really nothing that validates our experience 50 to 100 years from now. So that's important. You know, mainstream papers are not covering our community like they did for a brief period back maybe 15, 20 years ago, when publications had ethnic beats. So I think for us to document, you know, the Kunshore Medal of Honor that person X got from Japan, our highs and lows, what we've done with the Great East Japan earthquake and tsunami, and covering that, all the fundraisers that happen as a result of that. You know, that's important. I think now it's even more important when we face the infringement upon our civil liberties as a country, that we constantly use our experience as Japanese Americans incarcerated during World War II to show the horrors of infringing upon those civil liberties. I think that's what our unique stand is as Japanese Americans, is to stand up for our people.
Final 3. If you were to do any other gig, what would you be doing?
Working for Apple. No, I'm not. I don't know. My father was a tomato farmer for 45 years. So, and I did it for a couple of summers. And I've always thought that anything other than that was easy. So I don't get much sleep. Might not get much money. Might have a bad health of doing what I'm doing. But at least I'm not farming in 110 degree weather. Playing baseball for the Angels.
Upcoming projects. I know we're trying to ramp up, trying to get donations rolling in. But for yourself, do you have anything coming on?
Yes.
Anything happening?
Yes. Well, we're very excited. I mean, we brought, like I said, 1,300 people to the Angel Island on our Angel Island pilgrimages over the first 3 years. This year, because of the conflict with Fleet Week, we're actually going to maybe a more historic place for Japanese Americans, the Wakamatsu Tea and Silk Farm Colony in Placerville in the foothills overlooking Sacramento. So this was the first settlement, large settlement of Japanese in America in 1869, and the grave site of Okei Ito, who passed away as the first Japanese woman in America. So it's a very historic location. So we're on October 7th, we are going to have a pilgrimage there with 4 or 5 buses from the Bay Area, Sacramento, and much like we do with Angel Island, we're going to have talks, we're going to have performances, and we're going to have volunteers from the California Genealogical Society there to help anyone with researching their family history, which is important because we've had people with tears in their eyes when they find their parents or grandparents on ship manifests, where they learn their journey when they didn't know. And we've had people come to Angel Island, and just because they're at Angel Island, they just thought they do a brief research, and then they found that both their parents were set foot in Angel Island. And they didn't know that before. But with the help of the genealogists, using various internet databases, they were able to find that out. So I think as long as we can get people to learn about their family history, I think it's great. So we're really excited about the colony, Teens of Park Colony pilgrimage on October 7th. www.wakamatsu.pilgrimage.
And we'll go ahead and have that link on our site as well.
And then another thing, after that, we're going to have our annual Films of Remembrance. It'll be our 7th annual Films of Remembrance. But it's taken off so much. This year we have 3 people who submitted films early. It's usually something that we curate and we look for films. But now people are starting to submit like at the film festival, which is not technically because we don't do a lot of things that film festivals do, but we selectively pick out films. And I think that it was so popular this year because of the time how communities were under attack, and how we had to gather and reflect upon our faith. And last year we played a lead role in the community response after the post-election hate. We held a United for Compassion visual in Japantown, which you did the spoken word at. But this came out of, I was asked by the Japan Times to do post-election in Japanese Americans, amongst other Japanese Americans. And so I started in part of my process to put a response together. I started seeing all these hate crimes the day of election and the day after. And you see people who are emboldened by the rhetoric of the Trump campaign, whether it was swastikas at Roseville High School, cleaning out fake deportation flyers at Reading High School. There were Asian Americans who were being told to go home, or there were eggs in California. So I'm proud that this community responded in a way that was meaningful and really continues to show that our special unique role is to stand up for other communities, because we don't want what happened to us before to happen again.
And finally, this is the buffet. I want to end with your ideal meal, whether you had or wish you would have. And what kind of song would you pair that with?
Does it have to be Japanese? Ideal meal. I mean, I would probably pick beef teriyaki.
Really?
Because I love beef teriyaki. My dad was beef teriyaki guy. And we still do this tradition where all our family members eat beef teriyaki on his birthday, and we post photos of whatever we're eating, what form of beef. Right? So my brother would do like a McDonald's, when he was in Japan, do a McDonald's beef titty burger. So I would choose beef titty. I don't know, maybe these days it's G Yamazawa trap.
All right.
Japanese American spoken word / rap.
All right. And on that note, thank you, Kenji.
Thank you.
For me, like I said at the beginning, I think it's kind of cool to have you on the hot seat because I think you especially have really, mentored me as well, as somebody who loves journalism. And so I think to continue that and kind of evolving and continuing with what you're doing is inspiring. And so I appreciate it.
All right.
And so on that note, thank you. Nichi Bei Day of Giving continues until what, 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock will be there.
And after that,
Union Bank Community Room, right across from Daiso, and just have to
you continue to donate, www.nichibei.org.
Yep. And then hit the Nichi Bei Day Giving button, and you'll be there.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.